Hey everybody, welcome to my very basic guide. In this episode, we'll be learning about the age-old childhood fantasy trope of being best friends with fantastical beasts, and what is more fantastical than riding large flying lizards. The Drakewarden is a ranger subclass that was introduced in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. It works in a very similar fashion to Tasha's Cauldron version of the Beastmaster's primal companion, only with a specialty in raising a scaly draconic companion instead of the classical woodland beasts. As you may have surmised, the Drakewarden Ranger is the Dungeons & Dragons version of the classic boy and his dragon archetype, with all the typical power fantasies of getting a pet dragon, such as it eventually growing wings and being big enough for you to actually mount it and soar into the sky together while launching breath attacks to decimate poor villagers from above and attacking prisons in Skyrim. Of course, as a ranger, you still have a lot of cool customization options outside of your subclass features, such as the spells that you want to have prepared, your fighting styles, your preference for caves, grass, or sand, and choosing the type of creatures that you hate the most, gaining small and sometimes easily forgettable bonuses when fighting them. There's also a lot of ranger variant class options to get added in Tasha's Cauldron, but this video will mostly focus on Fizban stuff, so we'll be starting off on the humble level 3, where the dragon stuff starts happening. At level 3, you gain Draconic Gift, which is comprised of two mini features. The first one is Tongue of Dragons, as your hours of Duolingo practice has finally paid off, as you gain the ability to speak, read, and write in Draconic, or one other language of your choice, because young rangers really need that extra credit to survive next semester of Drakewarden College. You also get Thaumaturgy as a ranger cantrip, which is kinda cool. I suppose it allows you to yell at your reptilian friend from far away places, or when flying together and the wind makes it hard to open your mouth, you can always use magically produced sounds to communicate, or find some other creative ways to have fun with Thaumaturgy cantrip. But besides your Draconic Gifts that enhance the more fluffy aspect of being a dragon tamer, the central component of what makes a Drakewarden live up to its name is your Drake Companion feature that you also receive at level 3. The Drake Companion stat block and rules has a pretty strong mechanical foundation, being similar to Tasha's Cauldron of Everything's primal companion feature. It has a nice armor class being 14 plus your proficiency bonus, which is plus 2 at level 3, so an AC of 16 with hit points that equals 5 plus 5 times your ranger level, so 20 hit points at level 3. Despite its small stature and how it starts off as essentially a lizard dog, it has quite the beefy body with really nice built-in scaling that can serve a level 3 Drakewarden very well. But what is even more interesting is how easily revivable your buddy can be, as you can simply use this feature again to resummon your Drake Companion after a long rest, or simply expend any spell slot that you have to revive your fallen lizard with a single action. Obviously, from a roleplay perspective, you probably don't want to send your best friend and the physical manifestation of your connection with nature to its death on purpose, but hey, if worse comes to worse, just know that 8 hours of rest is all you need to solve your problems in your life as an adventurer. The Drake Companion also naturally takes the dodge action, unless the Drakewarden uses their bonus action to order it to do something else, such as attacking. The Bite attack also adds on the Drakewarden's proficiency bonus, giving it a plus 5 at level 3 to its attack roll and a damage roll of 1d6 plus your proficiency, which is pretty substantial and reliable offensive tool to have as a bonus action. This is very similar to the action economy of the Primal Companion feature found in Tasha's Cauldron, but with the difference that the Drake Companion specifically begins its turn after the Drakewarden finishes their turn, which makes it slightly less flexible in terms of working together as a single unit if you want to ride your Drake when it grows bigger. Another big feature of the Drake Companion is its Draconic Essence, which allows the Drakewarden to choose a damage type for its Infused Strikes reaction ability, and also the type of damage that your Drake Companion will be immune to when you summon it. The damage types are Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, and Poison, and being able to pick and choose your Drake Companion's damage immunity can be situationally amazing, especially if you know what type of enemies you'll be facing as you summon your Drake. Not only that, but having Infused Strikes as an extra damage buff to you or your allies as a reaction ability makes the Drake Companion quite an effective supportive ally to have, especially for adventurers that are looking to fish for some natural 20s. Other interesting features that the Drake Companion stat block offers is the fact that it has scaling saving throws, with its dexterity and wisdom adding the Drakewarden's proficiency bonus, which is also pretty neat. Finally, moving on to level 7, we receive a pretty sizable buff to our reptilian friend from the feature Bond of Fang and Scale. It is technically made up of 3 mini features, all of which are pretty good and helps make the Drake noticeably better as a companion that can do a lot more than what the basic stat block would initially suggest. The main standout ability of this feature would be the fact that your 4-legged snake grows a pair of wings and has a flying speed equal to its walking speed, which is 40 feet, which is of course hugely flexible for a large variety of scouting or infiltration operations. The first of the 3 official mini features will be Drake Mount, which grows your small scaly buddy into a fully fledged medium-sized Drake, but with the additional ability of allowing a medium-sized creature to ride on its back. This is a fantastic exception to the standard rule of requiring your mount be one size larger than the rider, and your Drake Mount scales as the Drakewarden levels up. At level 7, your Drake will have 40 hit points and 17 armor class, which makes it quite a formidable target to take down, especially since you can resummon it with just a level 1 spell slot if it dies. The only drawback is that your Drake's fresh new wings are unfortunately too weak and puny to carry your heavy weight on its back, so flying is off the table if you want to ride your Drake, at least for now. The next of the trifecta is called Magic Fang, which doesn't actually convert your physical bite into magical damage, but instead it simply adds an extra 1d6 damage of the same type as your Drake's Draconic Essence. This does mean that the creatures that resist piercing damage will still resist 1d6 plus your proficiency bonus from the Drake's bite attack, but still that extra damage that you get for merely a bonus action, on top of everything else that Bond of Fang and Scale gives you, is still nothing to sneeze at. The final mini feature that the Drakewarden receives at level 7 is Resistance, which actually buffs the Drakewarden and not the Drake Companion this time around. Getting passive resistance to either acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison is quite handy, especially since you can change your Drake's Draconic Essence when resummoning it, which gives you the ability to pick and choose your resistance type. This sort of pre-fight prep work is also easier for a Drakewarden, since you have a flying ally that you can use to scout the enemies that you will be fighting beforehand. In summary, the level 7 feature Bond of Fang and Scale is a really nice expansion to your Drake Companion's innate abilities, and also doesn't really cost the Drakewarden any resource to use as well. It's just flat out improvements to how you can choose to use your Drake. Reaching level 11, you and your Draconic Companion have probably eaten a lot of things, so it stands to reason that your Drake can now use its breath as a special damage dealing weapon. This newfound breath attack is a 30-foot cone, with the potential of being either acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison damage. Interestingly, the damage type is not bound to the Draconic Essence that you choose, giving the Drake a lot of versatility in terms of the enemies that it can damage effectively, especially since you can change the damage type every time you choose to use its breath attack. The damage of Drake's breath is 8d6 on a failed dexterity saving throw, or half as much on a successful one against the Drakewarden's spell save DC. Essentially, the Drake's breath is the Drakewarden's equivalent of a fireball, which is pretty nifty, especially for rangers since they lack big area effect crowd control abilities in their toolkit. The caveat is that you can only use this breath weapon once before long resting to recharge the ability, or alternatively, you can spend a 3rd level spell slot or higher to instantaneously regain the Drake breath feature, which is pretty costly for a half caster like the ranger. The damage also gets better once you reach level 15, turning it into a 10d6 breath weapon attack, which is pretty good. The Drake's Breath feature probably will not alter the way you approach large swarms of enemies, but having that pseudo fireball to unleash is always very reassuring to have, and its sheer damage potential in fights that traditionally threaten rangers is definitely something that the Drakewarden can be proud to have in their back pocket. Finally, arriving at level 15, you get the Drakewarden subclass capstone feature of Perfected Bond, which allows your Drake to grow in substantial girth, becoming a fully fledged large-sized companion that you can hop onto and take to the skies. The bond between you and your winged reptile is truly a sight to behold, as your originally small little buddy finally reaches the final evolution, and you can finally hang out with your friend on both the ground and the air, giving the Drakewarden a lot more options in their angle of attack. The Perfected Bond feature actually comprised of 3 passive buffs to your Drake Companion, similar to your level 7 feature, making it a fearsome late game partner that makes it feel much more dragon-like in its capabilities, and gives the Drakewarden the confidence they need to send their friend into battle without worrying too much if it's going to get shot down by evil undead ice people. The first of the triumvirate of new abilities is Empowered Bite. It is basically a buff to Magic Fang from level 7, now giving the Drake's Bite attack 2d6 extra damage of a type that matches its Draconic Essence. So at level 15, that's 3d6 plus 5 of extra damage coming out of your Drake, which by itself is not very impressive at level 15, but keeping in mind that the bite attack is activated by the Drakewarden's bonus action, it actually becomes quite nice since the extra damage is in conjunction with the ranger's normal action. The second ability and the standout feature of Perfected Bond would probably be Large Drake. You've fed your dragon well and have successfully reached the final stage of its evolution, causing your Drake companion to be a large-sized creature. Not only that, you can now properly ride your Drake while also flying high in the sky. Being able to ride a flying mount that has 80 hit points and 19 armor class at level 15 is quite the combo, especially if you choose to use a ranged focus build. The final of the 3 abilities is Reflexive Resistance, which allows the Drakewarden to expend their reaction to gain resistance for themselves, or to give resistance to their Drake for a single instance of damage, if they are within 30 feet of each other. You can only use Reflexive Resistance a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, which at level 15 is 5 times until a long rest is needed to recharge this feature. This is pretty great if you stick close to your winged beast, as this just makes you guys tankier. Especially when fighting enemies that do big hits, being able to mitigate half of that damage on a reaction is a really handy thing to have. All in all, Perfected Bond is a perfectly fine capstone feature, giving you the much vaunted ability of hopping on your pal and flying together as much as you want, while also getting some extra damage and survivability. And that's about it for this very basic guide to the Drakewarden Ranger subclass, as presented in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. The Drakewarden is a very, very unique subclass, as it helps create the golden standard of companion that is designed to be mounted, while also having good scaling and can even fly at later levels. It is a subclass that I think successfully captures the aesthetic and emotional appeal of training your very own dragon and riding into combat on top of your scaly steed. Thanks everybody for all of the support that I received on this channel while I was busy taking care of real life things. I'm really excited that I eventually found the time to make this video. Thank you for your patience. I've also been thinking about making videos that focus on things outside of just mechanics and subclass features, but I'm not sure how that's going to work, so it'll probably be purely experimental if it ever comes out, and with a lot of trial and error. However, videos will hopefully can still be enjoyable to most of you, as I do wonder what kind of videos I can make beyond just subclasses sometimes, since, you know, eventually I'll run out of subclasses, and there are other interesting things to talk about. But anyways, that's enough of my ramblings. Thanks for watching, everybody. And as always, I hope that anyone who watches my stuff enjoys what I create as much as I enjoyed creating it in the first place. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, goodbye for now.